So I guess before we kind of start, from my kind of side, is that everyone focuses at the moment about you've got to have a great product. You do. You've got to have a great kind of advertising. You do. But actually, in the world that is so competitive, which is the DTC market now, you need everything to be fully aligned, fully working, and all linking in together. And so I think a lot of what I'll be talking about today, although I'm head of performance, is talking about kind of how tech plays a vital part in driving success for brands. So we've got Teddy here, who's come from Grind Coffee. I'm sure, hands up if you've heard of Grind Coffee. There you go. Almost every single person, except for one person who I can now see.
Where do you live? Why don't you met them?
And Ed from Littledata, and we'll hear a lot more about him and what his company does over the next 20 minutes. So before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the tech, so Teddy, talk us a little bit through your kind of journey so far to date.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I've got a bit of a weird voice today, but I'll do my best. Hey, I'm Teddy from Grind. I'm serving coffee now for just over a decade around London. As I imagine most of you know, due to how much money we spend on Facebook, we now sell compostable coffee pods, which we've been selling for about 2 years now. I mean, effectively, we had a business that, I don't know if any of you have ever had the misery of owning a restaurant business or seeing a P&L of a restaurant business, but it's a terrible business to be in. But basically, we realized that over almost a decade, we built a really, really exciting brand that people kind of really resonated with people. And about 2018, we looked at it and we were like, oh God, people kept telling us how great it was. And we were like, well, it's not very profitable. So we kind of semi-pivoted into DTC, which kind of started as effectively a side project for a couple of us in the business, kind of working over evenings and weekends. And then obviously when COVID happened, we kind of put about 200 people onto furlough, and kind of a small team of us kind of started working on our online business. I think for us, it was a really interesting moment because we went from, I think we did 10 grand in revenue through our online business in January 2020, and we did just over 600K in May that year. I think it was just kind of I think we went 50x in a couple of months as we went into lockdown, and it really hasn't come down for us. So I think, to go on that journey of kind of spend basically a decade building a business and then just a couple of months building a second one was really, really exciting, which we couldn't have done it without Littledata.
Thank you.
So I guess talk us through kind of how you guys met, how you first started working together, and the kind of, I guess, the journey that you've been on together.
Yeah, I mean, so when I think like a lot of businesses, we were even within quite a large business as a whole for Grind, our D2C offering was always like a very small team at first. I mean, at first it was literally like me on my own, messing around on my evenings and weekends, and just needed, and of course, like at that point, you need like turnkey solutions. So, I mean, we were, back then, I think Recharge are here today. We had Shopify, Recharge, and Littledata, and a kind of Amex plugged into Facebook, and really just like figuring it out from day one, which we couldn't. But that was kind of where we discovered. That was where we discovered Littledata, and just as a way of pulling together both Shopify and Google Analytics, just to be able to give us a central point of it. I think for me, I'm not a big fan of I try not to like fuck around with my tech stack too much. Like, I think it's very easy to like rearrange those kind of tools and find new tools to help you do things better. But in reality, you just kind of want to get to. You just need to kind of want to get to the realities of doing the work, right? And you want to have all your information all in one place, being able to look at your LTV, being able to look at your CAC, and being able to hopefully improve those over time. But yeah, so that was kind of what we went looking for. What we went looking for with a solution that Littledata fulfilled for us then, and have done for a couple of years now.
Great. Well, over to kind of Ed. So I guess for everyone in the crowd who kind of hasn't heard of you guys already, kind of talk us through what you guys do for DTC brands.
Yeah, sure. So funny aside, actually, a restaurant was my first business idea as an entrepreneur, but I'm really glad I didn't go down that path, and we've focused on the Shopify space for about 5 years now. So Littledata helps brands get really accurate data about how their store is performing, how their marketing campaigns are actually translating into sales. And we do that by integrating deeply with Shopify and big commerce stores, and with subscription apps like Recharge. And pushing that all to Google Analytics primarily, although we now support Facebook ads and Segment as other data destinations. And the reason we do that is because, as Teddy said, if you're running a brand and you want to be able to make iterative improvements on your marketing campaign to tactics, even the creatives, you need to sort of have a reliable measurement of how it's all working and actually have confidence that baseline is actually like for like across time. And I think what we started alluding to is, when you're talking about measuring lifetime value from subscription commerce, it's even more challenging because actually it takes a number of months really to build up that, that customer behavior, that lifetime revenue for you actually to be able to work out what kind of campaigns are working for you.
I think it's really important to kind of, I guess, remember that not all data is created equal, right? There's a plethora of data that everyone has access to at any one time, and actually you need to be working with partners to actually go, what is the data that I should be working with and what isn't the data, so that you don't spend hundreds of thousands of pounds down a route that is never going to drive success for you, right? So I guess moving forward, because talking about your journey together, because I think it's really kind of nice how you've both kind of grown in this kind of space, is kind of how did you use what you guys bring to the table in terms of lifetime value and the value of the data in terms of helping kind of grow as a business as well?
You start.
Look, so obviously for us, lifetime value is really, really important, as it is for as a key metric for us as a subscription brand. I think that the biggest thing is also kind of looking at the levers that then affect LTV. So looking at the routes that people will take and the kind of variety of LTV results you get based on the acquisition channel, based on even the route that they take, kind of what the products and the products they bought in series that then led to a higher LTV, especially where obviously, although a subscription brand, it's Nespresso pods, right? It's basically like there are blends. It's like, we want people to kind of pause a subscription more. We find that the more you kind of move around, you get a kind of a greater LTV. Basically, the way that a higher LTV correlates to a whole broad range of different actions.
Yeah, right. So exactly, it's not, as you say, it's not just about the kind of the customer's first engagement with the brand. It's actually about tracking all of the customer touch points, and that might be, you say, on the subscription sort of management side, where they've cancelled, upgraded, paused. It might be in terms of your content, so measuring actually what they're interacting with in your blog or other email marketing. And it might be just the subsequent products they're buying, because most brands actually are doing a mix of one-time and subscription purchase. Almost every brand we talk to is at least thinking about subscription, but a lot of them still making most of the money off one-time, and so understanding that mix of how it all fits together and seeing it in one place.
And so I guess you kind of touched about the channels and tactics. Was there anything specific that kind of stuck out that you guys were able to identify and then build from that kind of led to success?
I mean, it's quite hard. To be honest, it's quite hard to think about. Oh, you're going to love this answer. It's quite hard to think about what the business would look like today without Littledata. When it's kind of, I thought you'd like that one. But yeah, I think it was just at a point where we were relatively under-resourced, as it always feels like you are, and that kind of being able to kind of have, with a set of tools that were relatively plug and play, I mean, completely out of the box plug and play, was kind of it was really what allowed us to kind of both set up the business quite easily and also then scale it. I'm trying to think of this. I'm struggling on a specific example. No, still struggling on a specific example.
But no, it's really great to hear that it's been a reliable background, because that's what we're trying to do as a business, is just we understand that people just don't have the bandwidth to piss around trying to work out whether their data is actually right or not, because obviously all of the business decisions you layer on top of that predicate that you're actually measuring the right thing. And I started before we started working with Shopify brands like Grind. I started my career in e-commerce with Made.com, another well-known London brand, and they had this just constant problem where they were pretty much employing my business full time to just maintain their analytics. And every time they'd deploy a new change, something would break, and then they were like, dang, we forgot to look at that. Now it's 3 months gone, and we've lost all that marketing sort of analytics. So it's really, big brands struggle with this, and if you're trying to run it on a lean team, as Grind is, you simply don't have the bandwidth to do this in-house.
I think that's really useful for everyone here, because I think there's quite a broad mix of brands and people who are in the audience, ranging from kind of quite small brands to kind of 100 million plus in kind of revenue. So it's interesting to see how it kind of changes depending on the size of organisation that you have as well. So I think we've spoken a bit about recharge, about the kind of subscription lifetime value, but I think from my side, and again, obviously I'm very much in the nitty-gritty of Facebook, Instagram. It's kind of what we do day in, day out here. So we've had lots of conversations about how you guys work in terms of the the effectiveness of data being passed back to Facebook, being passed back to Google. So maybe talk us through a little bit more about what you guys do to kind of facilitate that.
Yeah, so I mentioned that we're launching actually a new product this quarter for Facebook Conversions API, or Facebook Ads more generally. And that's because a lot of marketers have basically been frustrated the last year that on Facebook the quality of data you actually get within the Facebook platform has gone down, frankly, because of a lot of those events being blocked by Apple's iOS, etc. Generally known as the iOS 14 problem, but it's a bit broader than that. And there is a solution to this. I think I've read quite a lot of articles where they're like, you just have to forget being able to track Facebook ads. Not true. The solution is very simply to send that data server-side to Facebook so that not only is it not blocked by iOS, but it's also allows us to send more enriched data, a better event match quality, and so then Facebook can match those, cart checkout orders back to a Facebook user and build a much more useful and valuable audience from that data. So people using Facebook Conversions API, I mean, we haven't been launched enough to have some specific brand things, but I know from Facebook's own stats, they're typically seeing a 20 to 30% uplift in their ROI, which is quite a big lift if you're spending on Facebook ads. So yeah, perhaps tell us a bit about how you're using Facebook and Instagram.
I mean, it's quite an interesting one for us. I mean, obviously, the iOS, I think, as a whole, the death of Facebook ads has been kind of quite largely exaggerated in the fact that I think we're at a point where, although I think a lot of people spent a lot of last summer going through and trying to kind of broadening their channel mix. As a whole, like the kind of Facebook and Instagram ads are kind of still just the pipeline by which people get to the site. So it doesn't matter where. Often we find that our performance is significantly increased on those based on the other channels we're doing, because in reality it's kind of still just a pipeline it's the rails on which that kind of online e-commerce still runs, right? That people still thumb through from Facebook ads into it, regardless of whatever you're doing elsewhere in the world. I think, like everyone, we've kind of had a bit of a battle with that since iOS 14 changes. To some extent, I don't mind it that much. I think it's a nice kind of a little bit of a return to marketing as an art rather than marketing as too much of a science and being a bit like, oh, can I A/B test? Did I put the call to action in the bottom left or did I put it in the bottom right? And I don't hate it. I think that no one's brand necessarily got any worse because of the iOS 14 changes, which is a matter of whether or not you could see it.
And it's got more complicated, right? Which is good for me because I know what's going on and less people do actually know what's going on. But yeah, as you say, it's not that it's suddenly kind of dropped off a cliff. It just means that actually to get to the same level that you were doing a year, 2 years ago, it's just got a significant level of more sophistication. So I guess to kind of summarize what Ed was talking about there. So the two biggest challenges from our side we see is retargeting audiences. Facebook now has a match rate of around 40 to 50% of any retargeting audiences. So if you can improve that event quality match, you can get 20, 30, 40% because a lot of brands spend all their time spending people at top of funnel, getting them into middle of funnel, and then they can't talk to them again because of iOS or because of other areas. So if you can solve even a certain extent of that event match quality, think of the kind of gains that you can kind of have when you think about your funnel structures. And then secondly, in terms of the optimization that is brought about from the improvement in tracking, etc. as well.
Yeah, right. So it's really, as you say, it's really the mid-funnel, the ability to build better audiences from the people who've already engaged somewhat with your social ads, and then for example, using some classic tactics in Facebook like abandoned cart type retargeting or lookalike audiences. These things are all enhanced or in fact enabled completely by the sort of data integrations we have.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, right, so I can see Tasha's on the side of the stage right to tell me to get off, but I'm going to stay on for a little bit longer because I'm a cheeky. So I guess just tell me quickly, Ed, like in terms of kind of the biggest upcoming stuff in kind of Shopify tech space over, say, the next 1 or 2 years, what's your kind of prediction?
Yeah, I mean, we still see Shopify as a platform growing hugely. A lot of bigger brands are still migrating to it. So, I've talked to, over the last few months, quite a lot of the sort of big consumer goods groups that typically sell more through supermarkets, the kind of, Unilever's, Reckitt's, et cetera as well. And they're all, moving their brands on Shopify because, by the way, their strategy is all DTC in the long term. And so first of all, it's growing. Secondly, that Shopify is launching a lot of features around international trading, what they broadly call Shopify markets. It's not one feature, it's basically a set of features that will enable brands to do more localization and internationalization in their stores. I think that's great news for everyone because it was one of the bugbears of Shopify. Again, we fit into that because being able to sort of consistently track all of your international stores into one analytics destination is, again, one of the use cases of our product. And I think also just the whole, they've obviously, Shopify's invested heavily in this fulfillment center network in the US. I can see why they're doing that. I'm sure eventually it will come to the UK. I think that'll be their next market.
Perfect. So quickly before we take a break, so for anyone who is on Shopify Plus, if you would like a free data audit, come and speak to Ed and he'll give it for you. And we don't have any time for questions, unfortunately, but Teddy has assured me he will be around for at least the next couple of hours. And we're about to go into a break, which Tash will tell you about in a second. So please feel free to approach him. But anyway, thank you very much for hearing us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Speak soon.
Thanks for having us.